Hey guys, if anyone's still there, sorry about the wait and the dramas, but we've been having a few technical difficulties this end. And it does seem to be that when we're doing the Galactic Nights, things happen. Um, so just waiting for some names to come up on my feed to see that someone's there. Um, and what we might start with is just letting you know what's going on tonight. So hopefully there is someone there. They're listening because I can't see if anyone is there. All right. So tonight it's a Galactic Night. Obviously, that's what was put out. We've been having some interesting events happening tonight, trying to get online, but we're here, and it would be great to see some names and some comments coming up. Some hellos would be wonderful to let me know. Here we go. Let me know someone's there. And yay, yay, I can see someone. So hey there, hey Christina, hey Jasmine. Yes, it is happening. So hopefully we can get some others back that were probably tired of waiting. Let's hopefully they'll come back. Anyway, here we are. So tonight we I had a talk with my galactic friends, and they're wanting something interesting for tonight. Hey Jasmine, hey Paul, hey Alison, and hey Roxy. So what the gang upstairs is wanting is me to be sharing information about the individuals that I work with from the group that they're a part of. Hey Judy, good to see you on board. So we might do away with the grounding exercise, and because it is running a bit late, but let's just run with the information that they've given me. So you may be familiar with some of the names and some of the beings that I've talked about over the previous months and right back through to last year. And hi, Truly Wolf. Hey, Paulette. Hey, Ali. Yay, we're getting some names coming up. Yes, so just to fill everyone in, what's happening is the galactic beings that I work with, they're wanting to give you some more detailed information about the individual beings that I've been working with that want to give some details of their life, their species, their planet. They're wanting to be more personable and to help you to understand more about who they are, because they're watching us and they're doing their darndest to understand who we are, and they have been watching us for a long time now. So the being that's wanting to talk is Darness. Now, I have spoken about her before, but some of you guys are new. Hey, Julie, and Charlene and Paula, Kylie Gregg, Ali Parsons, and Paulette Wallace. Yay, great to have you guys on board. Sorry, apologies for the late start. Technical issues. All right, now Darness she is from what's known as the TriStar system. That's how she explains it. So she's in the vicinity of the Palladian system, very close to it. And what she wanted me to pass on is that this system is very active with many different races, many different species. And there has been a little bit of confusion at times that all humanoid species are Palladians, and they're not. There are many different races out there, civilizations on many different planets in that cluster of star systems. It's a very highly populated sector of the universe, they're telling me. There are many interactions going on between the different races, the different planetary systems, and just as with any group of beings in a community, and we can say this is a broader community where she comes from, not all get along, but they do their best to get along with all species, all races within that group of star systems. Sorry. Now, her race looks, and I've seen her. She showed herself to me, and I've seen she's introduced me to other people from her planet. What she's wanting me to share with you is how they live, and so she mentioned that their race is approximately 400 to 500 years ahead of us. Now that brings on all kind of connotations of amazing structures. In fact, what there is very, very few structures above the ground. The majority of the structures are underground. The planet has been brought back to a heavily forested area, not completely forested, but the areas that are forested are very rich in life of many types. They don't have a huge population. Their population has been able to stay stable because of their spiritual teachings. And this is one of the major things she's been wanting me to share, is more about her spiritual teachings. But I will go through some of the information that she's already given me over time. She says there is this was her beginning, and I'd like to share the whole lot with you because this gives you an indication of what sort of person that she is. So there is an unrest amongst much of humanity that is bringing the darkness of the ego to the surface. This has been, and what she's talking about is this raising in frequency that's been happening for about the last 12 years. And more, you will understand that there is no place in this world for jealousy, anger, fear, and hatred. So these are the things that we need to be working on. And this is why the energy that's been sweeping through of late is having such a huge effect on us. Recently, it's been bringing up those deeper parts of the ego that will continue to bring imbalance until dealt with. So no matter how spiritual we think we are, and it doesn't matter whether we're talking about humans or any other races, anything of that dark nature that we hold down, we hold within us, is going to continue to rise to the surface, and until we deal with it, it will be undermining our life in some way. So now she talks about what happens for her people. So for her culture, their whole education system is based on spirituality. From the time they're born and they have a level of awareness, and that is at a pretty young age for them. She's saying even as little as 2 months old, there are a very gentle spiritual teachings that are brought in. of a very basic nature. It's not forced upon the children, but the children are born very inquisitive and very intuitive as well, because their species has been evolving at a fairly reasonable rate. And so their whole understanding of life revolves around spirituality. And when you think about our education system with the typical subjects of, say, English, maths, geography, geology, chemistry, the one thing, it's very seemingly disconnected. It's all these separate subjects that don't seem to mesh together a lot of the time. And yet spirituality is the missing aspect of what really links all of these subjects together. And it gives a greater understanding of those subjects when those spiritual teachings are there and feed the union of all of these different subjects. So their whole life revolves around frequency and harmony, really. She talked to me a while ago, and I have mentioned this in the past. She's talked to me about how they look upon food, so physical food. It's only been as little as, she said, around 50 to 60 of our years that the very last few people that were eating meat actually stopped eating meat. So on their planet now, there's no one actually eating meat. It's something that's been phasing out for some time, and it's now totally phased out. So it's plant foods that are wholly and solely consumed. There is a lot of food that they take from the water, and I don't mean meat, I mean plant food from the water, from fresh water and from seawater. And yes, they do have oceans, and the oceans are of a salty nature. Go figure. A planet millions of miles away, from light years away from us, and yet there's still a common thread that happens. So she said that with the food they eat, it's really interesting when you compare it to the way we eat. In their teachings, as they begin to grow, that information that they take in, the understandings and the concepts of spirituality, pardon me, that information helps their body, their frequency, their vibration to raise. But of course, it's not as high as it can get in those first few years. It's at a basic level still. And so how they would eat the way they eat that would be appropriate for that vibration is they have an understanding that certain foods have a certain frequency. So they will only eat foods that are of the same frequency that the people are at that time in their life. She says that there's no point in eating a higher frequency food until the person's ready, because what can happen is the person's body can reject that food in different ways. Number one, it can just purge it out, or number two, it can actually have a negative effect on the organs and some of the energetic systems through the body. So she was laughing with me at one point many years ago or a few years ago when she was telling me about this. She's observed our marketing ploys we have down here, the big companies that are trying to market certain types of foods. And she used the example of goji berries. This was supposed to be like the second coming as far as food goes for humans when it first came out. And yes, they are of a higher vibration, or they were of a higher vibration. But as they began to be farmed more heavily, the vibration was still too high for humans at that point to really eat, because the it just wasn't having an active effect within the bodies. And as she said before, some people's bodies were rejecting it quite heavily. And so where in fact the food, we need to raise our frequency to suit the food we eat. This way, everything happens with much more harmony and balance. So how she showed me, this was an indicator of how the food that they eat is looked upon. So there was a building, an underground building. The front of the building had windows in it, and you could see into the forest. It was on the side of quite a large mountain, and there were I can't remember exactly, 4 or 5 tiers, areas at different heights with different tables with different foods on. So each tier had a particular table with particular foods. So depending on the vibration you were at, you would go to one of those tiers where there would be a table with that type of food that would suit your frequency that you were running at. And so that is something that is always followed. And every now and then they would, after spiritual teachings and after they'd gone through a growth spurt, they would re-look at their frequency, and they would always keep in check with that. And so there would be the opportunity at some point to go to that higher tier of food. Now, what was interesting is from the lower tier, or the lower table, where that first level of food was, first frequency of food, there was much more food on the table and much more variety of food on the table than there was at the highest. So the highest vibrational food, there was less food because less food was needed to feed the body. As they gained a higher frequency in their spiritual teachings, they needed less food, and they were running more on energy, life force, than they were on food, but there was still a need. Now, the other thing that she wants me to share is the fact that they live a lot longer than us. They can live up to 160 to 170 years, pretty much maximum at the moment. But this is changing, of course, as time evolves and as they learn and understand more about the universe and how to live a better way. So this food intake is really interesting, because they look not only at food in this way, but they look at relationships in this way. And this is not just partner relationships. This is also to do with friendships, with the interactions between, say, a teacher and a student. There would always be a check-in around frequency. But as far as any relationships go, and maybe let's pick partner relationships, there is always open, clear communication. This is another aspect of their spiritual growth, is to be very clear with communication. So unlike us, they have it's almost like a have to, that they do not hold anything in. They do not repress or subject their thoughts to being separated from being in the conscious. They have to be open, aware, and communicative about everything, because this is what diminishes the life force of the body by restriction of information within us. It causes imbalances, but also suppression of information creates even further imbalances, and not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, of course. So they've gone way beyond this, and open communication is very clear. So in relationships, there is, she mentioned to me that when they formally step into a relationship as partners, they, instead of a marriage, because they don't believe that the be all and end all is one partner for life, because growth takes on can take them many directions, and so it's a part of growth that individuals, even though they're in partnerships, can be free to live their journey wherever that journey takes them. But sometimes a partnership can continue for their whole life. But this isn't something they're always aiming for, or society is aiming for, or expecting. There's this romantic version that of how we should live, and it's not necessarily the right way. A lot of people may argue with me about that, and that's fine. But I can see how that would be correct. The one part that would make it so much more clearer is with communication, full, open, unadulterated communication, because this makes everything clear. There's no grey areas. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes. Everything is open and out. So if anyone's got any questions around this stuff, I'm more than open to stopping and continuing. And look, one of the things that I think I said the week before last, one of the things that's happening with us anyway, which again is all about vibration and frequency, is people's bodies are now determining what they want to eat more and more. And I can fully go with this, because I've really just gone through quite a change with eating meat. So I can't eat chicken. I can't eat your normal red meat that you would get from Woolworths and Coles. I can't eat pork, can't eat lamb. But what I am comfortable eating at the moment is high protein, low fat, which is game meat. So venison and kangaroo is the only red meat I'll have, and I have that sparsely. It's not like I have it every night. It's too much, but high protein does give you lots of energy, and the lacking in fat in the animal meat, in game meat, is much more pure for the body, much cleaner for the body, and it doesn't subject our body to that fatty tissue, which clogs up arteries and has a huge effect on the heart. We've got Karen Demel here saying, my body wants sushi. Well, there you go. Rice is definitely plant food, and whether you have fish or anything in there, that's totally up to you. But it's a great thing for just having vegetables in there. Tammy Fox is saying, I need to go live there and sort my diet out. Well, there's people here that can help you with your diet. So that may have been a joke, but there are people around that understand this stuff. And but the big thing here is your body is actually telling you more so than ever before, and this is what has really happened for them as well. It's part of their education, but it's also them being far more in tune with their bodies, so that they will listen to their bodies. The problem is, most of us, well, a lot of us don't listen to what our body's telling us. And so we just go into habitual behavior and we continue to eat the same old things when in fact our bodies, a lot of the time, are telling us not to. So let me just go back into some of this information from the past that she's wanted to talk about. Okay, so one of the greatest things that they see as being first and foremost is emotional and spiritual intelligence rather than mental intelligence. And yet they have that naturally because of their lifestyle. It's emotional and spiritual intelligence that really keeps them in that space that they live in where they have peace and harmony. Now, they also showed me that they have spiritual practices similar to what we do. They have practices around yoga. It's not. They actually showed me some of the movements with yoga. Or their version of it. It's a bit different. It's almost a combination between Tai Chi, martial arts, and yoga. So it's a very almost poetic and it's interesting to watch because the energy of each one of them is almost working in with the others, and there's a consciousness when they do this in the mornings. Um, there's a consciousness that really brings them together because it's everyone has the same focus on their health and their levels of energy and their growth and being there for their children to help them to grow as well. It's just a natural part of life. And if you remember, you might remember a few weeks ago, I was giving you information about what the galactic beings have said about the near future, what to expect, and this is from their observations of what's going on the planet, and I'm talking about right down here. So they've got beings here that are with it, living on the Earth, and just observing what's happening here. So with all these changes that are going on, they've told me that there's an expectation that by 2023, at least 50% of the people on the planet will be open and actively involved in either heavily or beginning to learn around spirituality. And this is not religion, but spirituality, something much freer. By 25, the amount of people on the planet will be creeping up to about 65% that are open and involved with spiritual practices, and the demand will be so high for their children to be having spiritual growth brought into the education system, that by 27, the education system, by demand of the people, will have spiritual growth as the basis of everything. And I actually have talked to a few teachers over this last few weeks since I brought that information up, just clients I've got, and they said this is already beginning to happen. The spiritual teachings are starting to be brought in, and this is in mainstream schooling, not just private schooling, because we know a lot of private schools are religious based. So this is in mainstream teaching. And what we're going to find is, and this is her saying this, that there'll be a reverse effect of the mainstream schooling having spiritual growth as the basis for all teaching, and the old school religious schools will begin to be falling behind with their teaching system. So she's saying by 2030, the schooling system will be pretty much open and similar, and the religious schools will begin to start to dissipate into the ethers. They just won't be there anymore, because the freedom of open spirituality will be in existence and will take the education of children far more ahead than it's ever been before, because it's spirituality that is the really the glue that binds all of these other subjects within schooling together. Instead of being these separate, hard to understand subjects, spirituality will be the key that unlocks the door of everything fitting into place, so to speak, which I find is fantastic. So she's saying with this, the frequency changes that are happening here, they're happening not just on the planet, they're happening everywhere. So even in this sector of the universe, to varying degrees, other intelligent beings on many different planets and on many different craft. And when she's talking about this sector, she means where Earth is and this part of the universe. Many different and on many different craft, there are the feelings and effects of this raising in frequency and energetic changes are being felt by all. It's not just us. So all of us that are working from large craft in your galaxy are feeling the effects as well, of course. And the difference being that we are taught to totally embrace any repercussions of this frequency rising, which brings fears and sometimes emotional pain, still comes up to the surface at times. Not anywhere near as much as when her race was at the same frequency as us, but it still comes up because they also have generational energy locked in their energy system as well that needs to be released. So the big difference for them is we are given the freedom to take the time out to process these changes that need to happen. With this old system that your society is working with, the average human does not have the understanding on how to or the support to do and to make these changes. The working system of this planet is far too dictatorial and totally unnecessary. So this is where the idea of much of humanity being like cattle comes from. The elitist leaders of your society do not want this to change. So spread the word, she says, to the world that change is coming, and in the end, nothing can stop it. Keep your loved ones close, keep communication open and clear, keep your spiritual practices strong, and remember you are at your strongest when your energy system is connected in its fullest to the Earth's energy system. This is why we are all here to help you to go through this change in an appropriate way, without interference from controlling and manipulative humans and negative beings who have a vested interest in life staying exactly the way it is and not evolving. But this cannot and will not happen, she says. You can't change what's going on now. This raising in frequency is out of everyone's hands. All right, so I've got a few questions. So we've got Tammy Fox saying, my kinesiologist wanted to send me to rehab for sugar. I love and eat a lot of veggies. Rehab for sugar. I'm not quite sure what that means. Are you eating too much sugar, or is your kinesiologist saying you need sugar? So now Holly is saying, yes, it is. They work on grounding and connecting to the earth at my kids' school. It's amazing. Fantastic. That's excellent. The Tracy's saying, yes, my kids' primary school teachers have had meditation in class, art classes as well. And this is where magical stuff will happen for our children. Just going back into relationships on their planet. So this new level of honesty and communication that she's proposing, that we work towards having, this will be the tools that drive relationships of the future for humanity. And this is interesting, verbal and self-written contracts to hold the relationship in a forward-moving direction until change is required. And it's not something that just one person would feel if that relationship was needing to change or needing to separate. Both would be conscious and aware and open of that. They would both feel it. And so the communication would be there even at that time of the beginning of feeling that. And this is where communication with elders as well is necessary to still bring harmony to the close of that relationship. She was saying to me today that in the relationships that they have, there's always a time needed when, after that separation, time to go within is most necessary, not to just blast into getting into another relationship. They know far better than that. They know they need to clean their energy and bring back purity to their energy. Not to say that the other person in that relationship was negative, but when in a relationship, there's an intermingling of consciousness and of energy, and there needs to be a coming back to self. And this is what she talks about being needed. So within relationships, she's talking about holding personal goals and dual goals, so goals for both people, both partners, that have spirituality as a foundation, which will bring both individual and joint success in whatever those goals might be. And also education around how the flow of energy and dynamics between people when setting goals. And of course, one of their skills is they can see energy. So that also means there can't be any lies, because I've even seen this when I've looked at people when I'm talking, and you can tell when someone's lying. It shows in their energy. So you can't get away with anything once you can see auras, because there's a difference in energy between drawing on memories as compared to manufacturing an idea or a thought. And there's always a difference, and it comes across as a deeper red color, and it stems from the head area and rises up through that area above the head. It's quite interesting to watch. So overall, a much clearer understanding of energy will be needed for the future because of where humanity is taking itself. Current method of living and working 5 to 6 days a week is a vastly outdated way to have harmonious relationships, either with partnerships, friends, or community, or work colleagues. This form of living was designed to keep people stressed, ungrounded, and disconnected at a heart level. This form of living creates a self-driven slavery elitist mentality amongst different levels of society. For humanity, this form of living has to be disbanded, and a new level of sharing time and skills for healthy community growth is necessary. We have seen many forms of these values working extremely successfully in many different cultures and within this part of the universe, and we will be sharing more information as time moves forward. So that was a little while ago. Now, she wanted to leave with these parting words. So this information came through about probably about an hour ago now. So we are all at different times in our lives needing to believe in something greater than our lives and who we are as a race and as a people. This belief is a faith of a higher force who we are a part of. The synchronicity and the streams of energy that we follow as spiritual beings are leading us to a new horizon of spirituality and understanding of the universe, bringing us closer to the source of all life. It has happened to all of our cultures, and what she means by that is this group of beings that are watching over us, where they're, in craft, watching our actions, watching our growth. They've gone through many similar situations as we are now. So it's happened to all of us, all of our cultures at some point in time, and it's happening to you and your people. This is why we are here, helping and guiding you, because you are family, and there is more that binds us than you think. So when she talks about us being family, this is about our level of DNA connection that we have with all of these beings. So to finalize, she just says, may you all have a long and enlightened life, and may your curiosity and courage help you to become enlightened and free. And freedom being the most needed aspect for our growth. So who is we? Dermot's asking. So may you all have a long enlightened life. So we is, I'm just going back through what I was just reading. So the we is the people, all these beings that are watching over us. So you may, Dermot, you may not have listened to previous information that I've channeled over the probably the last 18 months. But there is a group called the Federation of Planets, or the Alliance, that's watching over us, and these beings are here, and we are a part of them. We carry the same DNA as them, and so they have been observing our race and its growth over millions of years. For them, generation after generation, they've been watching us. So look, guys, if you've got any questions, now's the time, because it is 20 past 8. I know we had a late start, but if you do have any questions, I'm happy to answer anything, because she's still around, and I can get direct information from her. So Annette, hey Annette, how you going? changed. Correct. Cheers. Hi, Matthew. Yes, Sherry. There's been a few names given to them. People have, I think sometimes a name catches on, but yeah, it's the same. What's happened, and I've been witness to this with the information they've been bringing through of late, that a lot of groups over this last probably 2 years have, let's say, broken apart and reformed, because there's been a lot of negative activity that's been discovered through some of the beings that have been playing a part in so-called helping us, and that's actually cleaned up a lot over this last 2 years. And so what we're left with now is a regrouping of these many different races that have always been here, and I guess you could say a filtering out of the negative ones that really have been undermining the whole project, the whole process. So I hope that answers that question, but this is one of the names that they've been called, yeah, the Galactic Federation. Hey Anne, how you going? Roxy Lou, the relationship separation ideas have really resonated with me at this time. My pleasure, Roxy. And hey Tanya, only just joined, so we will have to watch the replay. Yeah, sorry Tanya. So we're going to finish up now. What I would like to say is that I'm coming up to Brisbane very soon, on the 1st of July. But what we've got coming up, workshops in Adelaide, I've got on 31st of July and the 1st of August, I've got a level 1 shamanism up at Riverdale Spiritual Centre at Gawler. That's always a great one to be a part of. I've been running that one for, wow, I think about 15 years. It's certainly upgraded over the last few years a lot. We have we've got a smudging workshop. So this is actually going through quite a few different cultures and seeing how smudging is done. We're actually going to make some plaited sweetgrass, which is sweetgrass is a herb or a grass plant that is used for smudging. It does have an incredibly sweet smell to it. It's quite beautiful to when the smell that it gives off when it's smoking, yeah, I think, well, that's about it. I won't go too much further into the future, but the level 1 shamanism is probably the big one coming up. If you want to know anything about that one, you can ring me on 0410 658 797. If you would like any help with moving through any emotional stuff, really getting repressed energy up to the surface and clearing it out, this is what I do full time. And the other thing is, which is coming in more and more, so with my readings, I connect with guides, but this is also spreading out to galactic beings. So there are generally, with the majority of people that come to see me, there's at least 1 or 2 galactic beings that's with that person for various reasons, and I can give clarity to those clients that come in as to why they're there. And generally, it's really interesting stuff. It's always interesting stuff that comes through. So happy to help out when you need that, and look forward to coming up very soon to Brisbane. But I'll see you next week. And what we're going to be doing is each night, the Fireside Chat over the next few weeks is going to be about a different being and the way their life is lived on their planet and a bit about their culture. So getting to know you, I think, is probably the name of the game. at the moment. So look, thanks guys. Thanks for being a part of tonight. Sorry it was a late start, but great to see you, and thanks very much for being there. Stay safe, and we'll talk soon. Bye now.